Okay, let's ask the question that no Mini fan wants to hear out loud. Is the new John Cooper Works just a Cooper S that's hit the gym, took some creatine, and put on some louder shoes? Because at $43,000, it better be doing more than flexing fender flares and revving louder on cold starts. In this episode, we're driving right through the spec sheet and into the driver's seat of this 2025 Mini John Cooper Works to see if it really has earned its stripe or if it's another fancy badge on a familiar body. What's it like? Buckle up, my friends. Let's go for a drive. I'm your host, Brian Makse, racer, lover of driving fast, fun things. And on this channel, you get reviews for drivers from drivers. Now, this is the version of the 2025 Mini Cooper that I really wanted to drive. This is the John Cooper Works, and anytime there's a Mini that wears this badge, it promises a lot of performance and a whole lot of attitude. And before we get into what this is like to drive, let's have a look at it in a little more depth. For 2025, the Cooper is all new, but for the JCW, what that means primarily, especially for us on this channel, big bump in power and a massive bump in torque, almost 60 more pounds of torque than the previous JCW. Think of it this way. It's small, it's angry, it's British, it's basically a teapot with a turbo. Under the hood is a 2-liter inline 4 that is indeed turbocharged, dialed up to 11. It makes 228 horsepower from 5,000 to 6,000 RPM and 280 pounds of torque from 1,500 to 4,000 RPM. You know the JCW means business when it out-torques your uncle's midlife crisis Mustang, that's for sure. The transmission is a 7-speed dual clutch, just like the Cooper S, but it does have updated ratios and calibrations, but sadly, no manual, my friends. Unlike the Cooper, there are actually paddle shifters on the back of the steering wheel. It is front-wheel drive, and there is no mechanical limited slip diff, but it is mimicked through brake-based torque vectoring. Steering is electrically assisted, as you'd expect. Front suspension uses the single joint spring strut axle setup, basically a sophisticated McPherson strut. Rear suspension is multi-link, and calibrations are stiffer all around, including bushings. Adaptive dampers are standard equipment here, and I think Mini calls it DCC, dynamic chassis control. The JCW gets larger brake rotors than the Cooper S. Wheels and tires are 18s. This one's properly fitted with the summer performance tire option. Curb weight is 3,050 pounds, and fun fact, the new grille is larger than the back seat, which makes that grille arguably more useful. Did you know that 80% of you are not subscribed? Yes, it's true. 80% of you are not subscribed. I checked the data. So if you like the content on this channel, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, make sure you like this, and if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Now back to your regularly scheduled episode. Behind the wheel, this is modern Mini, and for 2025, that means the interior is dominated by this round OLED screen, and I can't claim that I'm still used to it. For example, what I find is Apple CarPlay is a bit of a square peg in a round hole in this display, and I use this primarily on Apple CarPlay. But after that, I can't complain about the driver interface. These seats are fantastic, and I'm set up perfectly behind the wheel. The seat's just the right blend of support and comfort. Did take this on a bit of a long drive, and it was exceptionally comfortable. No issues with the seat whatsoever, and it's highly adjustable. There's lots of travel in this seat. Anyone of almost any height can fit behind the wheel here. The rim is definitely on the thicker side, and as you know, we get some shift paddles here on the JCW that are absent in the Cooper S. Secondary controls on the steering wheel are actually buttons. They're not touch-based controls. It's very quirky and Mini in here, so we've got a toggle for a start-stop switch. We've got another toggle for the shifter, and then of course the experiences toggle to get you the different experiences, and don't call them drive modes. The instrument cluster, well, there's not quite much of one. We do have a heads-up display that is configurable to a certain degree. There is some information here on the OLED screen, but really appreciate that the speed is displayed on the heads-up display because that is very useful rather than looking over here like some other manufacturers do, and I'm looking at you, Tesla. Personally, I find the interface to the infotainment system a little too complex. There's just a lot going on, and I do use it on wireless CarPlay. It works wonderfully that way, and the only other upside to the infotainment system is that it actually has a volume knob here, which I really appreciate. Since this is one of those modern wirelessly connected cars, my phone sits here in the wireless charger and it's held in by a strap, which is brilliant because when we're having some fun in the corners, my phone is not going anywhere. In terms of spaciousness, at least here, the cabin is big, it's airy. When you open up the sunshade, it is just a lovely place to be. There's lots of room for you and your passenger, and there's no claustrophobic vibes in here whatsoever. The rear seats, well, they're technically present, kind of like the Queen is still technically on Canadian money. There's a little bit more room under the hatch than it seems from the previous generation. So right now I've got my camera bag, my backpack filled with stuff, and a couple of tripods comfortably under the hatch. You can fold down the rear seats, which I did do to take some larger items, and it's surprisingly cavernous when those rear seats are folded. But in terms of storage, the number one thing that I really dig, and I thought it was a gimmick with this new 2025 Mini, is this little cubby. I absolutely love this thing. It is so useful. It's so functional. This is not your run-of-the-mill hatchback. It's just built and engineered at a much higher level. Yes, it's a hatchback, but you really can't compare it to anything else in the market simply because it's so premium. But if you're new to one of these 2025 Minis, when you step inside, it's much less premium hot hatch and much more boutique spaceship. You get toggle switches, ambient lighting, and a big circular screen that looks like it's something out of Tony Stark's laboratory. It's loud, unhinged, slightly mad in here, which is good because if you wanted something subtle, you'd have bought a Golf. It's definitely not minimalist in here. It's mostly maximalist, boiled down to the size of a duffel bag, and every bit of this interior is telling you to stop being so serious and just enjoy the drive. We always save the topic of drive modes for the discussion around the vehicle's performance, but this is a 2025 Mini and it doesn't have drive modes per se. It has experiences. And what I found with these experiences, when you flip the toggle to go-kart mode, it doesn't as much change how the car behaves, it changes how you behave. The ring around the OLED screen glows red like you've entered fight mode in a video game. The steering tightens, throttle response sharpens, the exhaust starts popping like it's had too much espresso. It's totally unnecessary and completely paints a smile on my face. I think it's Mini's way of saying just go on, be ridiculous, and the car and the lights are all in on the joke with you. With this new JCW, I think Mini's dynamics engineers said, why don't we give it launch control? As far as I'm concerned, why don't we give it a try? Launch control active, let off the brake. There we go. Does a lovely job of getting that power down. A little bit of tire squeal, probably illegal in this jurisdiction, but nonetheless, this will do 0 to 60 officially in 5.9, but that's not the real story. Apparently it does 0 to 60 in like 5.5, and top speed is a little bit over 150 miles an hour, believe it or not. Now, the story of this 2-liter turbo in JCW tune is very much about all of that torque and how it comes on. Peak torque starts at 1500 RPM. That's plenty low enough. This thing is quick and full of attitude anytime you use the throttle. Peak torque is all the way through the middle of the rev range. It is just a torque-filled driving experience here in this JCW. And not really much torque steer here either, even at low speeds. Between the suspension geometry, the open diff with its brake-based torque vectoring does a great job of keeping any front-wheel drive bad habits in check. It will rev quite happily to redline, but with all of that torque, you kind of don't need the upper end of the rev range. But if you do take this to the racetrack, mind you, you probably want to do that. But in day-to-day driving, I'm definitely short shifting this simply because of the abundance of torque. Funny thing is, I haven't encountered a situation where I'm missing a mechanical limited slip diff here. Again, between the geometry, the suspension calibrations, and the way they've got the brake-based torque vectoring set up, it doesn't miss a beat, and it's not intrusive in any way. I'd probably have to drive this JCW and the S back to back to understand the gearing changes that they've made. They do seem very subtle, but what I do appreciate is the way these gears are organized. It works perfectly in every situation, whether we're cruising around town, out on the open road, even the freeway. Took this on a bit of a drive, and then on back roads. It is just delightful. Part of the delight comes from the dual clutch. The thing is, it's not just fast, it's almost telepathic. Tap one of the paddles and you're in the right gear before you even finish the thought. Downshifts are crisp and rev matched with no drama. Upshifts are instantaneous, and the whole system feels like it was tuned by someone who really, really hates torque converters. Will you miss the manual? Probably, but when you're on the back roads having a good time and cracking off shifts that give you a little pop and burble, well, you'll be grinning too much like an idiot to really care. Now, the thing about a JCW is that we need to attack some corners with attitude, shall we? Let's. Oh, just wonderful. This road surface is very rough, by the way, but wow, it does a great job putting down power. Lots of confidence in this brake pedal and steering. I can just carve the perfect, precise line with this thing. Wow. Dampers are doing a great job of keeping these tires in contact with the road. Wow. Tough corner here off camber on exit, but no problem putting down power. That torque just rockets us out of the corners, but love the braking, love how quick the downshifts are and upshifts as well. Overall, this is the kind of dynamic package you'd expect for something that wears a JCW badge. Ride quality, firm, feedback, constant, steering quick in all the best ways, although some of us might call that twitchy, but if you call it twitchy, that's on you. Steering is strong on center and perfectly weighted no matter what you're doing, whether you're parking this or attacking some corners. Just always the right amount of heft to it. Steers with wonderful precision as you'd expect for a Mini JCW. But the thing is, because it's a Mini, 3-point turns, easy as pie. But there's not a lot of feel or feedback that comes through the wheel itself, but thankfully a lot of feel through the chassis. This does a great job of communicating what's going on at each of the 4 contact patches. As much as we talk about how this goes really well, let's talk about how it stops, and these brakes are just fantastic. Love everything about them. Excellent feel, excellent control, and on top of that, I can really control the attitude of this JCW on corner entry, and that's the difference between a brilliant driver's car and also Rans. And if you want to take this to a track, well, I'm sure those brake rotors are up for the task and getting rid of all of that heat you're going to generate by making this go quickly around a racetrack. These dampers do an excellent job of body and wheel control, and everything is just a lot more taut than in the Cooper S, but it definitely rides on the firm side. All of the calibrations are very different, and it's all the way down to the bushings, so you do get a stiffer platform to work with, but the flip side of that coin is that it is a little bit more of a firm ride, and maybe some of your passengers might complain, but as always, those aren't the kind of passengers you want in your car. And the thing is, this JCW has no intentions of coddling you. It's trying to make you feel everything. It's not perfectly comfortable, but then neither is a roller coaster, and people pay for that experience. If you're into feel and feedback and something that goads you into maybe some bad decisions from time to time, well, this JCW is your hot hatch. If you're into comfort, well, buy literally anything else. How do you spec yours? Well, what you are looking at is a 2025 Mini Cooper John Cooper Works, finished in Nanook white and the black Vexen and cord interior with, of course, the red mirror caps and red roof. In the US, base price is $38,200. Add the iconic trim, the wheels, the stripes, and you get an as-tested price of $43,200. In Canada, base price is $51,990 plus the white paint and the stripes, for an as-tested price of $52,990, and these prices are before freight, local taxes, fees, etc. This JCW is not cheap, and what that means is you're paying boutique pricing for what is a hot hatch. But this isn't just a Cooper with a power bump. You're getting heads-up display, Harman Kardon audio, heated everything, and an interface that looks like it belongs in a concept car. It's value for people who want their small cars with big personalities. And if you're that kind of person, this thing delivers. You don't buy this for value, you buy it for character, and Mini, bless them, they've slapped on some pretty red calipers. Now, in terms of speccing yours, there are 11 colors to choose from. 9 of them are tasteful, 2 of them will get you followed by your local car spotter or social media crew, but as far as I'm concerned, I'd get mine in black and do away with as much red trim as possible. And if you have the choice, make sure you get the summer performance tire option on your Mini Cooper JCW. My verdict, well, I think the real story here is that this JCW is not simply a Cooper S with a different badge. It's not marketing, it's actually all mechanical. The revised gear ratios and the dual clutch, a stiffer chassis all around that is quite good, and torque that comes on harder and earlier mean the JCW isn't just a faster Cooper S, it's much more focused. Compared to something like a Civic Type R, this is much more nightclub than Nürburgring Nordschleife. Both will give you a headache, but I suppose it's up to you to pick your poison. This is the kind of car that makes no sense on paper and then total sense when you're behind the wheel laughing like an out-of-control toddler. This JCW isn't trying to be the best hot hatch, it's trying to be the most fun, and as far as I'm concerned, mission absolutely accomplished. In an automotive world that's becoming increasingly beige and apologetic, this thing still gives a damn. And for that reason alone, you might want one, at least before Mini puts a plug in it. Thanks for hanging out with me today and having a look at this 2025 Mini Cooper John Cooper Works hot hatch. Hope you liked this episode, and if you did, you're not new, you know what to do. Smash the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, like this, and as always, sharing is caring, so please share this with your friends, especially on Reddit, because on Reddit, they really need to see reviews for drivers from drivers. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time. And remember, cars don't understeer by themselves, not even Mini Cooper JCWs. And since you've hung around this long and you're probably a fan of manuals as I am, well, have a look at our episode of the 2024 Mini Cooper John Cooper Works, which was the last of the manuals. I think you might enjoy that episode. Thanks again for watching. See you again next time.